APC broaches impeachment again, dares Saraki to reopen the National Assembly. Nigeria's external reserves drop by $1 billion in 3 weeks. In international news, pandemonium hits Florida City as gunman kills 4 at video game tournament. And in sports, Nigeria's under-19 cricket team beat Tanzania qualify for World Cup.
This is ANN News.
I am Rotimi Akintunde. The All Progressives Congress has dared the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, to reconvene the Senate if indeed it was not disturbed by about moves to impeach him. APC, through its National Publicity Secretary, Yekini Nabina, said on Sunday the party's position was its response to Saraki's declaration that he was not losing sleep over threats to unseat him following his decision to dump APC for the opposition People's Democratic Party. Saraki has told reporters in Asaba on Saturday that he was not bothered about the APC plot against him, but Nabina said, quote, "It will be removed democratically. Let him reconvene the Senate first, since he feels we in APC don't have the numbers required to impeach him," end quote. Saraki's spokesman, Yusuf Olaniyan, said due process will be followed to reconvene the Senate. Meanwhile, a coalition of Niger Delta agitators warned on Sunday that further attacks on Senate President Bukola Saraki and his forceful removal would be met with stiff resistance. The People's Democratic Party has challenged President Muhammadu Buhari and his party, the All Progressives Congress (APC), on Sunday to national debate on good governance, saying the government has failed in every sector of national life. PDP National Publicity Secretary Kola Ologbondiyan noted in Abuja that available data, both locally and internationally, had confirmed that Buhari's administration had failed in all its promises, particularly on the fight against corruption. PDP said it was ready to expose the lies and failures of the administration and dangers it brought on the nation, while challenging both APC and the president to an open debate on governance. President Muhammadu Buhari said on Sunday that the principle of rule of law must be subject to the supremacy of the nation's security and national interest. He said where national security and public interest were being threatened, the individual rights of those allegedly responsible must take second place. Buhari made the statement at this year's Nigerian Bar Association Annual General Conference in Abuja. He said rule of law must be made subject to the supremacy of the nation's security and national interest. The president also enjoined lawyers to work for national cohesion ahead of next year's general election. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is investigating the Rivers State government for alleged cash withdrawals totaling 117 billion naira. Reports say the withdrawals from the account of the state government were made in the last 3 years. The top official of the commission said the withdrawals violated the Money Laundering Prohibition Act, stating that the manner in which the money was withdrawn was suspicious. The source said 45 different checks were issued in the name of one person in June 2015, among other withdrawals. EFCC was reported to be on the trail of 4 different suspects over the suspicious withdrawals. Meanwhile, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has declared that no official of the Rivers State government will appear before the EFCC over what he called politically motivated investigations until the commission approached the Court of Appeal to set aside a 2007 judgment barring the EFCC from investigating the state. Militants under the coalition of Niger Delta agitators have threatened fresh actions against the interest of the Nigerian government in the region if the country is not restructured. Leader of the Niger Delta watchdogs, John Duku, noted on Sunday that the threat became necessary following many anti-democratic actions by the federal government and the All Progressives Congress. It is described as regrettable and alleged use of the EFCC as a tool to fight perceived political opponent instead of carrying out its constitutional duties without bias. Science and Technology Minister Ogbonnaya Onu is to embark on an official visit to the US and Cuba to sensitize Nigerians to the numerous advantages of the country's economic recovery and growth plan. The ministry says the visit will afford the minister to enlighten Nigerians in the US to ensure the realization of the objectives of the plan. The ministry is expected to take steps to encourage indigenous professionals in the diaspora to return home and use the experience to develop Nigeria. The minister will proceed to Cuba at the end of his visit to the U.S. early next month to honor the invitation of the government of Cuba to enable both countries evaluate the possibilities of cooperation in the areas of science, technology, and innovation. In economic news, Nigeria's foreign reserves have fallen by close to $1 billion this month. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria showed on Sunday that the external reserves, which stood at more than $47 billion in July, had declined to $46 billion last week. Central Bank of Nigeria noted that the evolution of the forex market in the country had been influenced by a number of factors, such as the changing pattern of international trade, institutional changes in the economy, and structural shifts in production. A former president, Association of National Accountants of Nigeria, Sam Zekwe, described oil as the nation's major revenue earner, saying the reserves had grown in recent months because oil price was increasing and production was constant. Local non-oil exporters may have started feeling the heat of the trade war between the U.S. and China. Projections from international trade bodies show that average tariffs on exports from Nigeria and Zambia might not go beyond 10% under the deal. Meanwhile, the affected businesses are already decrying slow demand and payments from China. Exporters say the trade dispute is leading to a weakened currency and further imposition of capital controls on foreign exchange payments to avoid the depletion of China's dollar reserves. The Nigerian Army says it will set up a general court-martial to try special forces who embarked on a protest at the Maiduguri airport in Borno State 2 weeks ago. Theatre commander in charge of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Abadiko, condemned the act of mutiny by the soldiers who took to protesting and shooting indiscriminately at the airport to protest their deployment to another local government area in the state. He reminded the soldiers of their oath of recruitment when they voluntarily joined the service. He noted that the oath must be respected as long as they remain in the service of the Nigerian Army. He said that the soldiers who protested will be disciplined according to the military laws. Oyo State Governor Abiola Ajimobi has vowed on Sunday to rebuild the demolished music house owned by evangelist Yinka Ayefele. On reactions to the demolition, Ajimobi pledged the state government's commitment to assist the singer in rebuilding. The governor also said the state would give necessary logistics, adding that Ayefele had held a peace talk with him in his office last week. The state government had demolished the building following a report that it violated originally approved building plans because it is structurally defective and poses danger to the general public. Still ahead, major news around Africa. And later, pandemonium hit Florida City as gunman opens fire on young people at a video games tournament. 4 killed, many injured.
You are watching ANN.
MTN gives 2,000% bonus for reactivating your MTN SIM. That's right. If you haven't used your MTN SIM for 45 days or more, recharge now and get 2,000% bonus. That's right, 2,000% bonus for your first recharge of every month.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now a trip around Africa. Emmerson Mnangagwa has taken the oath of office on Sunday. The Constitutional Court confirmed him as Zimbabwe president on Friday, dismissing a challenge by opponent Nelson Chamisa he defeated in the July ballot. Mnangagwa urged Zimbabweans to unite behind his presidency as he assumes office. It was a divisive election that U.S. observers said had called the country's democratic credentials into question. Thousands of Zimbabweans and foreign leaders, including South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa and Paul Kagame of Rwanda, gathered at Harare's National Stadium for Sunday's swearing-in. In his inauguration speech, Mnangagwa reaffirmed pre-election pledges to revive Zimbabwe's crippled economy and settle outstanding debts with foreign lenders. He also reaffirmed he would call an independent inquiry into what he called a regrettable and unacceptable army crackdown following the vote in which 6 people died. Authorities in DR Congo said on Saturday they are rolling out a battery of new drugs to tackle the Ebola virus amid concerns it has spread to a rebel-encircled area. The outbreak has killed 67 persons this month, including a doctor. The country's health ministry said a total of 105 cases have been reported since the flare-up of Ebola began in August in Magina, North Kivu province. 77 have been confirmed infected by laboratory tests. It said 11 persons have recovered from the virus and 67 had died. The World Health Organization warned on Friday signs that the virus had spread to the city of Oicha in North Kivu province could frustrate efforts to contain the virus. Egyptian security officials say 4 policemen and 4 militants have been killed during clashes in the restive northern Sinai Peninsula. The officials said militants armed with explosives and RPGs attacked a checkpoint at the entrance to El Arish city on Saturday. They said another 10 policemen were wounded. Egypt's state-run news agency quoted an unnamed official as saying that police thwarted the attack and confirmed the militant's death. Egypt began a nationwide anti-militant operation in February, mainly focused on the turbulent Sinai, the epicenter of years-long Islamic insurgency spearheaded by the Islamic State group's local affiliate. Namibia President Hage Gottfried Geingob said he will hold countrywide land expropriation talks for the first time since independence as a small southern African nation grapples with political and ethnic tensions over the transfer of wealth to its majority black population. He said the second National Land Conference will begin in October to address the willing seller, willing buyer principle and other issues connected to resettlement criteria. Namibia wants to transfer 43% or 15 million hectares of its arable agricultural land to previously disadvantaged blacks by 2020. According to the Namibia Agriculture Union, 27% was redistributed by the end of 2015. Critics say the current land resettlement program has failed to adequately address the land question in Namibia, whose ownership is currently skewed in favor of a tiny white minority. Burundi government is prepared to take part in a final session of crisis talks, with the opposition expected to be held in Uganda next month, despite earlier official word that the dialogue was over. Foreign Minister Ezekiel Nibigira said they are preparing to take part in the 5th round of talks. Burundi thinks it will be the final chance for a negotiated settlement. His comments came days after the UN Security Council criticized the slow progress in talks between Burundi's government and the opposition, despite President Pierre Nkurunziza's decision not to seek re-election in 2020. The East African bloc of countries, EAC, is seeking to broker a political deal between the government and the opposition to end the crisis that erupted in 2015 when Nkurunziza decided to seek a 3rd term. Ghana President Nana Akufo-Addo said on Friday United Nations former chief and Nobel laureate Kofi Annan will be given a full state burial in his home country on September the 13th, a service befitting his status as a global icon, diplomat and statesman. Annan died in a Swiss hospital 2 weeks ago at the age of 80. His foundation and close associates said he was surrounded in his last days by his second wife Nane and children Kojo and Nina. After rising through the ranks of the United Nations, Annan served 2 terms as UN Secretary General in New York from 1997 to 2006 and retired to live in a Swiss village in the Geneva countryside. His 10-year-old foundation promotes good governance and the transformation of African agriculture. Annan at the United Nations shared the 2001 Nobel Peace Prize for efforts to reform the world body and give priority to human rights issues. A Uganda High Court judge has granted bail to an opposition lawmaker, Bobi Wine, on Monday over his alleged role in the stoning of President Yoweri Museveni's convoy earlier this month. Afropop star and MP Bobi Wine, whose real name is Robert Yagulai, was charged with treason last week alongside 4 other MPs. The court ruled that he did not constitute a flight risk. His allies say he's being targeted by the government because he has emerged as a fierce critic of Museveni since becoming an MP last year and has drawn huge crowds at rallies. Newly elected MP Kassiano Wadri was also granted bail.
While the world sleeps, ANN News stays awake. News takes no time off. We are awake, so you can sleep. We report the stories that keep you up to date, events that affect your day, your week, month, and experiences. We scour the world, bringing it to your living room. Watch ANN News in a truly African spirit.
Coming up, international news and later sports. Nigeria's under-19 cricket team beats Tanzania, qualify for World Cup. Hope rising for Nigeria in cricket world.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
I am Lucy Adeyemi.
I am Rotimi Akintunde.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. We bring you the news
On ANN News.
business. Politics.
Global news.
Watch ANN News.
In a truly African spirit. Welcome back to ANN News. In international stories, a video game tournament in Jacksonville, Florida on Sunday turned to a killing sport for one of the participants who shot dead 4 persons and himself. He was identified by police as 24-year-old David Kaz from Baltimore, Maryland. 11 other persons were injured at Jacksonville Landing, a large shopping and entertainment complex. The tournament was underway at the complex when a live stream recording captured audio of the mass shooting. Kaz was reported to have become angry after losing at the American football esports event. The victims have not been named yet until their next of kin are informed, but 2 of the slain victims have been identified on social media by friends. Pope Francis has issued an apology for the crimes of the Catholic Church in Ireland, saying church officials did not respond with compassion, truth and justice to the women and many children who were abused for generations. The Pope was on a 2-day visit to Ireland, during which he met with the Irish President, Prime Minister and conducted masses at 2 venues. He also gave a speech at the meeting of families that was held there. Pope Francis asked for forgiveness for those members of the hierarchy who didn't take responsibility for this painful situation and for those who were silent about it. With this weekend trip to Ireland, Pope Francis became the first Pope in 39 years to visit this predominantly Catholic country. He is also the first since the island's Catholic abuses came to light in the 1990s. United States Senator John McCain, popularly called the Maverick and a prominent critic of President Donald Trump's administration, has died of brain cancer at the age of 81. McCain is known as a war hero and a towering figure in national politics, representing Arizona as a member of the House and a senator for more than 3 decades. He died a day after deciding to stop treatment for aggressive brain cancer he had battled for a year. McCain has been in the public eye since the 1960s when, as a naval aviator, he was shot down during the Vietnam War, captured and tortured for 5 years as a prisoner of war. McCain was noted for putting country over party, as he most often backed his own Republican Party to vote across the aisle. He spoke his conscience and was revered by both his party members and Democrats alike. Memorial services will be held first in Phoenix, Arizona, then at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., after laying in state at the Capitol. He will be buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Iran has gone to the United Nations highest court to get a ruling against U.S. sanctions. Earlier this year, President Donald Trump reimposed the sanctions, a move Iran has called naked economic aggression. Iran argues the sanctions reimposed in May breached a 1995 bilateral agreement known as the Treaty of Amity that regulates economic and consular ties between two countries. Tehran is asking the court to suspend sanctions to protect Iranian interests. Trump pulled the United States out of a 2015 six-nation agreement over Iran's nuclear program, paving the way for the reimposition of sanctions. A U.S. strike over the weekend killed the senior Islamic State commander Abu Saeed Orakzai in eastern Afghanistan. A spokesman for U.S. forces says American military launched a counterterrorism strike that targeted the real enemies of Afghanistan, the same enemies who threaten America. Orakzai, known as the head of the Islamic group, was killed alongside 9 other members of the militant group. Deputy spokesman for the Afghan presidency, Shah Hussain, says the operation showed the government's determination to fight terrorism. Up next, sports. In cricket, Nigeria beat Tanzania for a place in the World Cup, a sport in which Nigeria's star has begun to rise.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get the photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it known for your hand, that's Palasa phone.
Welcome back to ANN News. In sports, Nigeria's under-19 national cricket team, known as the Junior Yellow Greens, have become the first side from the country to qualify for any cricket World Cup. Nigeria beat Tanzania by 35 runs in the second semi-final of the ongoing ICC Africa Division II World Cup qualifier. The win gave Nigeria a ticket to the 2020 Under-19 Cricket World Cup in South Africa. The team will now play in Division 1 in the World Cup. This is the first time Nigeria will ever participate in an event of this magnitude. Vice President of the Nigeria Cricket Federation, Uye Apata, said this achievement is a cap on the development plans on which the Federation has been working. Ghana has been stripped of the hosting right for the 2018 African Women's Nations Cup over poor preparation for the tournament. CAF's inspection team to Ghana found that the 2 stadiums where the 8 Nations African Championship were scheduled to take place in November are not ready. A decision by the local organizing committee to change the venue to Kumasi or Tamale was dismissed by CAF. CAF's move is a massive blow to Ghana Ministry of Youth and Sports. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Rotimi Akintunde. Have a great evening.